Good afternoon, everyone. This is Suhas here from Sankey Solutions, and we're going to get started in a few minutes. In just a couple of minutes, we are waiting for people to get in. So give us a couple of minutes and we'll get started. Okay, I think we should get started. We have 20 participants so far, and then I think we have a few more joining, I know, in a few minutes. So again, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suhas. Along with me, I have Sri Hari, who is one of our geography lead based out of Singapore. So I think the whole idea of doing this seminar was that me and Sherry have been working in this field, helping organizations build data capabilities, build reporting and analytical capabilities for many years. And in the last few years, we have worked with so many different clients, so many different problems across smaller companies, larger companies, built cockpits for quite large companies, built very agile data capabilities, reporting capabilities for multiple retail and startups in UK. So there are a lot of learnings that we have from different things that we have done in so many years, and it was great for us to just collate our perspective and collate our perspectives and then share with you. This is just the initial first session to give us a very high level. This or the area that we're trying to capture here is extremely vast and one of the complex as well in terms of practically implementing and adapting it. But what we will try to do today is to give you a very high level perspective on different things at very high level, from the design perspective, from the structure perspective, and then we plan to have more detailed sessions later on. If required, even a masterclass where we can do a workshop to building some of these capabilities for your organizations. So with that, let me share. You want to move to the next slide? I'll quickly introduce few slides about a few things about Sankey, just to give you context of who we are, who me and Sherry is, and then I'll hand it over to Sherry, who has been actually front-facing this a lot of initiatives with a lot of customers, and he can walk us through some of his learnings and best practices. So with that, Sankey, we are a 4.5-year-old company, grown to 200 people, coming from have offices in India, Singapore, and UK. Work with quite a bit of clients across the board. Have been recognized in the industry by UK, by multiple institutions. We're also part of Forbes Technology Council. Can I go next?
Yeah.
And personally, me and Sherry have been as I mentioned, doing the projects, working on the clients, helping clients to get on the journey for the last few years. And especially Sherry is kind of leading one of this geography where we have solved this problem many times for very senior leadership as well as very interesting startup. So both of us have come with around 18 plus years of technology and data experience working for large companies, helping in consulting many brands across globally for in US and in Europe. And primarily our expertise has been in leveraging technology and data together to drive solutions. And I think what we plan to share is based on experience that we have gathered in the last 4.5 years, solving these problems with a variety of customers. So with that, Sherry, I want to hand it over to you to take it over. But sorry, before that, just a basic logistic. So we'll try to we want to have this webinar a little more engaging. So if you have any questions, please post your questions on your chat. You cannot unmute yourself, but definitely post your questions. What I will do is I'll moderate these questions in between, and I'll have that pose it to Sherry, so that we don't end up into digressing on the questions. But please, at any point in time, your questions posted on this chat, and I will pick it up as we go. Now, some of the questions can be around specific slides that you want to, any questions that are pertaining to the slide that we're talking about, or your questions can be about in general, overall, about that is not any topic that we're not covered or any topic that you want to learn from. So please post your thoughts as we go, and would love to pick up those and have the conversation with Sherry as we go along. With that, Sherry, again, thanks for doing this with me. And can you then just walk us through what you think is the right way for organization to move from data to decisions?
Sure, sir. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My voice is clear. Suhas, can you hear me?
Yeah, pretty clear.
Okay,
good,
perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. What you can see on the slide is what we plan to cover today. Again, like Suhas was saying, this is intended to be a pretty series of sessions. So this one being the start of it, what we thought we can give a good understanding at a very high level what this entire spectrum of data and data to decision can be, right? And how different organizations leverage it in different ways. So we are going to talk about few fundamentals of what this strategy can be. This can be very useful if you are starting. You are at the early stage of setting this up in your organization. It can be a startup or within the group in a bigger organization. It can be pretty relevant in that case as well. How can you assess the maturity, right? What is the long-term roadmap should look like? And while we talk about future, I think there are a few things that we need to consider, which can be the foundational block, right, for getting this right. So that's also something that we would want to cover in today's session. What this is not, at least being in first of the series of sessions, this is not going to deep dive into specific tools or a technology set. That's not the intent for today's session. But yes, we'll definitely come up with a follow-up depending on the questions and the interest that the group has, right? So yes, we'll touch a very high level, but yeah, it will not be any deep dives on specific tools and technology. So that's the primary intent of today's session. Okay. So with that, let me just go on to the let's to give a summary of what this entire landscape can look like, right? I mean, I have faced this slide out. The reason being, it can become very busy and it can become a little overwhelming, right? The entire intent is from data. All the organization these days, right? Over the last decade has been everybody wants to make a data-driven decisions. The reason is there is no dependency on individuals with experience. There is no dependency or minimal dependency on what people's gut might tell you, and which is not a skill, right? It's something people grow with experience. And And if you wait for the experience, obviously you will miss on the time aspect. So data is the key thing which will drive the decisions these days, right? So data is what we want to measure, right? now Now, irrespective of whether you're talking about a big organization or a young company, right? Data is going to be the crux of how your decisions are going to end up. So, for younger organizations, the challenge is going to be how can you collect all required data? What are the data? How much investment do you want to make, right, in creating the source of truth, as we call it, right? Whereas at the same time, you may think the bigger organizations, the Fortune 50 and 100 organizations, must be well placed off in this phase, right? I mean, we work with a lot of them, but that's not the case. I mean, they have a problem of plenty on the other hand, right? They have multiple sources, things are very siloed, the data sources don't talk to each other, different sources have different kind of numbers, and they don't reconcile. And hence, the headache is even more, right? So the problem, I mean, though this is like the fundamental building block, this problem is not something which is sorted in most of the organizations still persists, right? Any analytics data driven projects that you talk about, right? Any machine learning to simple reporting, you would realize that easily 60 to 70% of the time in the entire exercise of end to end goes into the data massaging, data cleaning, data factoring part. So, I mean, it may seem like a very fundamental and rudimentary thing, but this becomes a main foundation. And there are multiple ways we can do that, right? Like you can see there are data warehouses, there are data lakes, and there is a lot of uh, managed services solutions available on the cloud as well. So yes, data becomes your first starting point. Second, on data, what do you do once you have data? Then you talk about what happened, right? In order to make any decision or to correct do any course correction in your for your business, you need to you need to understand what happened. So based on the data that you have, you can have a descriptive set of solutions, which will be canned reports. Right now, these can be reports which can come over email. It can come as a dashboard. It can come in multiple formats, right? So this just tells you what happened. It's like looking at your health card or looking at your blood report, right? It just tells you what happened. And so you know that, okay, what you should take care of, right? But why it happened is not something that comes very naturally out of data, right? So you have to build the why part of it, right? In case of just like what we do for our health checkups, right? When we see our if anybody's blood pressure is high, what you need to do, you need to understand what are the lifestyle habits, what are the food habits, what are the genetical disorder that might have come in. So there are multiple reasons. Similarly to a business, there can be a reason. I mean, you can very well say your revenue has dropped by 30%, but why has it dropped? Is it just the sales? Is it the margin? Is it you're out of inventory and you don't not able to get enough products on the ground? What? And there can be multiple reasons, right? So the why part has to be further built on the descriptive part, right? This requires some amount of data modeling, some amount of business understanding to build the why part. And then comes the part of predictive, right? Now, what can happen? Now, I know why something happened, but will I, the data, along with, of course, stats and business understanding, can also tell you what can happen. Now, what can happen is, of course, there is a good amount of stats involved. There is a good amount of probability-driven analysis involved. So it will give you different scenarios. You can play out that if you increase your price by 10%, what can be a possible reaction from the customers, right? Those kind of scenarios you can play out, and you can predict, okay, kind of sales that you can expect in next quarter or next year, and so on, right? So that's the predictive part. Now, simulations, forecasting, supervised machine learning, these are all different aspects of what you can have as a predictive part, right? And then comes your prescriptive. Again, what to do. I mean, it takes a step further and it tells you about what are the different things that you can achieve, right? Who should be your target segment? What are your uh, customer lifetime value, right? For people who, a lot of things are in the subscription model these days. What can be a customer lifetime value that you can expect from a user who is paying $20 per month or $10 per month on a subscription model, correct? So things like that can get into the prescriptive. Now these are not necessarily these are the different stages of maturity, but things can like iterate from jump from one stage to other and come back, right? It's not going to be a straight journey of step one to step two to step three to step five. That's not how this is going to happen. So you will have to go to step three, you will realize there are some gaps, you will have to come down to step two again and then take a jump to step four. So it is going to be iterative in that fashion. So at the end of the day, data to decision, this is the very, very high level landscape, right? So data leads to insights, leads to key decisions, right? Now, how do we adapt? How do we build a roadmap of this for any given organization will depend on what is my current maturity, right? Now, it can be a small or it can be a large organization, but now they can be a different level of maturity. But from our experience, like what Suhas was telling earlier, from our experience, we have realized that the key failure points, right, that happens in this journey for most of the organizations are two, right? You can yeah, if you do a Pareto analysis, you would see there are two major reasons why organizations fail in capitalizing on their business intelligence platform or data platforms or ML platforms. The two major reasons which you can currently not see here in these five stages. The first one being the first one being your adoption, right? So at the end of the stage, right, whether you make reports or whether you make a dashboard or any ML based model, right? The adoption of business, utility by business is going to be the key differentiator whether it's a success or not, right? It can be the most sophisticated model, but if business doesn't find it intuitive, business cannot adopt to it, it is not going to fly, no matter how much effort you put in, no matter what level degrees of PhDs and double PhDs work on it, right? So if you see the fag end of adoption is something that you will have to keep that in mind while you are delivering solutions from any of these stages, be it the report, be it a model, right? And on the left hand side, even before the data comes in, what is the design, right? How is the data captured? Because a lot of times we realize that we are not able to build any substantial outcome or a solution on the PI because the data foundation itself is flawed. Okay, the data is not captured in the right granularity, the right metrics are not captured. There is not enough legacy or time period of data that is available. History of data is important if you want to build some trend analysis or some predictive model on top of it. So those things, the design for what you want to achieve has to be defined correctly. So these are the two big gaps which can lead to what I say is failure of your data initiative in any organization, be it small or big.
So
Yeah.
Shriri, I think
Yeah.
one question, right, is that, see, we often hear from our customers, right, there's a more like a catch-22 situation. People say, I don't build data capability. Sorry, people say, um, I don't have enough data and hence I cannot build a lot of decision capabilities, right? And on the other side, people say, look, I do not have, I do not know what decisions to take and hence I cannot build data capabilities, right? So there's a lot of this catch-22 discussions or catch-22 situations happen. So how do you think we organizations should try to attempt this kind of situations.
Absolutely, right? I think you, anytime you are trying to build a strategy for data or analytics for your organization, you are never going to have a full end-to-end clarity ever in mind. And anytime you build a roadmap or a design, right? Things business is going to change at such a rapid pace. Your design is not going to be able to withstand that pace. So the only thing that you have to, or what we suggest or we recommend is that you build in a iterative fashion, right? Build lots and lots of quick wins, MVPs. Start with lot of minimum viable products, right? Solutions, minimum viable solutions, and put it on the ground, right? None of your initiatives should last for more than 3 weeks max, 3 to 4 weeks. Within 3 weeks, something should be out for businesses to see, for businesses to feel, give feedback. This is not working. This is not useful. So if business realizes they are going to get something new every 2 3 weeks, they will be ready to engage because they know there is a progress that is happening, right? So the whole idea is going to be how can you modularize your entire I mean, first end to end, you have to think what the entire roadmap you want to go, but then you have to try and modularize into 2 3 weeks quick solutions, and then try to take it to end users, see if it works, get the feedback, work on it. So that's what the iteration is going to be. So if you wait, so as like, I mean, that's what we have been telling our clients. If you wait for the right solution to evolve, to come to your mind, and then jump into the implementation, that's never going to happen. The business would have jumped into a different phase, and your solution will be with no use,
So in
right?
short, I think the data and decisions are going to evolve together, right? You're never going to have data ready and
Correct.
then you make decisions, or decisions you're clear and then you're going to have data for it, right? You're going to have evolving at the same
Right.
time, iterating, right? And that's the only way
Exactly.
to build this.
Correct. And absolutely, they are going to evolve, and the only way is you have to be iterative, right? And just on the same line, I mean, if you see the next slide, what can be a starting point, right? Now, of course, you would need data to have any kind of decisions to be based on those, right? But before, now we call it data is the new oil, and I mean, it's most precious. It's quadrupling every year, and so on. But the design part is what you can control. Data, the flow of data, the volume of data, I think that is something that you cannot control. It will be driven by business. But the design to capture data, to use and leverage data is something that you can definitely control, and that's what you should focus on before jumping on to just leveraging data, right? I think people have tendency that you give me data, I'll figure out, I'll just try to work it on Excel or something, and I give some reports out, some graphs out. And some of it may work, some of it may not work, but that's definitely not scalable, right? So before you touch the data, I think you should have the design in place. And what should be your objective of primary objective of your design? Is what is it that you want to achieve? You want to achieve more performance? Is it a short-term objective, long-term objective? What do you have in mind? Right? So we should have that very clear. You should have a business hypothesis, right? That these are the things that are going to be drivers for my business, right? You may be wrong. It's okay, but you should have hypothesize. You should hypothesize and have list of reasons for how your business will be impacted by certain things, right? So expected insights that you need from the data, expected actions that you wish to take, right? So this can be a hypothesis list, this can be a wish list, this can be a what will make your business decisions easier. So you should have that. And then what is your end goal, right? Is it just like one time thing you want to do for the sake of next 3 months project, or is it something you want to do like every week, every month, every quarter, or is it something that you would want people to just business to come back anytime, right? On demand insights. So is it that? So if you have those clarity, I think you would be able to design the right kind of a data model or a data setup to build your the data collection platform
part, right? That's the primary objective. Then secondary can be your measurement, like what are the metrics, what are the KPIs that are going to be defined success, right? What is going to be the roadmap that we saw just now was very high level, very generic. But yeah, what is specific roadmap? Do you really want to think of ML in next 6 months? Are you so mature, or do you want to just start and have some kind of a good retrospective reporting solution for your organization? Depending on the maturity, your roadmap will be different. So if you have this in place, the data would help you set up and build a solution for that. Yeah.
So Shiri, one of the things that we both are constantly facing is sometimes we work with a very, very evolving business, right?
Right.
Where they themselves are not very clear about their hypothesis, right? Their hypothesis also evolve with time, right? They're experimenting with some new initiatives and they don't have clear understanding of their own business, right? So how do you then go about defining this primary and secondary properly?
So, right. So the hypothesis would be evolving, absolutely. Their expectations from a BI department or a data department or an analytics department overall would be evolving for sure, right? But what we expect is like just hold on to one fundamental ones, right? Before jumping onto a more complex or a complicated or a multi-layered questions or a business deep dives, look for a more simpler one, right? So our primary suggestion is that instead of building a canned report, you are trying to second guess what business needs, right? So the primary thing once you have a data layer ready is to build a self-service platform. Okay, what this means is that people will have flexibility and fungibility to just use. It can be as simple as a cube, which is based out of your Excel pivots. Right now, most of the business users are usually comfortable with Excel to start with. So just give them an Excel pivot. They can pull in all the metrics. They can verify their hypothesis. They can validate what their questions are, right? And they can then come back to you saying, okay, this looks okay. This doesn't look okay, right? So giving that control in their hand, okay, gives them a lot of confidence, even if it is wrong, right? They know that, okay, these are the things we are capturing. We will have to do differently. I mean, without having that control, they are always uncertain. They are on the edge. They're on the seat that, okay, what are we doing? How are we performing? How do I know that? So having that data control in their hand in terms of self-service solution is the right way, is a step two once you have the data platform in place, right?
Perfect.
So,
So
yeah.
I think if your business is in a phase where you're evolving and your understanding is going to evolving, then don't get into building a data warehouse as a step one, right? Don't get into building a Power BI or Tableau reports as a
Correct.
step one, right? Create a smaller,
Right.
low weight, very high, lightweight, agile systems which will evolve and then build, scale it further, right? I think.
Correct. Absolutely. And that's what the next section also was trying to highlight there. So build MVPs, right? Don't try to build a sophisticated solution from step one, right? Have ideas, have hypotheses, test it for the data front, test it on the business usage front, right? If you find it useful, then get into the scaling. And of course, you will, like you said, it will evolve, and hence the utility is going to go down after some point. And when utility goes down, improvise on the design, or you should be preempting it actually, not only after it goes down, but before it goes down, you should realize that what is the next thing that business would need, right, to scale. And that's how you should improvise your design and then take it on the next level of enhancements and testing, right? So and this cycle will go on. So you will always have to evolve and implement.
So Sherry, I want to add an example here, right? Very, very, very recent example for everyone here, right? So recently we were working with one of a large private equity company who wanted to create a simulation model, right? For them to understand what if they exit at a different stages of their portfolio companies, how much carry they will earn, how much was the way the draws that they will have, and how much funds they will return to the general partners. So it's a very simulation a very basic simulation they wanted, right? And they had an Excel-based simulation, but they was not able to use by a lot of people in the company. So what we did in this case, we knew that this simulation is going to evolve quite a bit, right? So there's no point of putting a very high-end technology solution to give them all that interactive experience in the step one. So we just took that Excel, what they had, use a Power Apps, Microsoft Power Apps to quickly build a UI presentation layer on top of that Excel. And literally on backend, it was still the same Excel. It was just giving them the wrapper to play around. And that visual, just a visualization aspect of giving that flexibility made them evolve so much that that exercise went for 3 months, and this whole simulation UI evolved in 3 months, and then we finalized and then converted into a robust solution, and then we implemented. So I think sometimes you have to be careful not to jump onto this technology investments right on day one to figure out there are hundreds of technology ways to kind of experiment with a smaller cost, smaller lightweight solutions, and then give that flexibility to business and move on. So I think that's just wanted to share the example that we had with recently, right? So.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And I think jumping on day one to any specific or holding on to any specific technology doesn't help, because you might take a wrong decision. And hence, right, whether it's even tech for that matter, even if it's a team, right, what is the right team to get started with? I mean, it's not a very straightforward decision. It cannot happen. So having MVPs helps, right? Because if you see ideal case, right, ideally, retrospectively, when you look back, a team should have a tech and a data guys in it, right? It should have some people who understand the data, who understand technology, who understand different aspects of it. Then you also need business people, right? People who would be able to guide you what are the right metrics, what are the right ways to measure, and so on. And then you would need UI, UX, right? For people to intuitively use it, you would need somebody to make it very easy to use. Otherwise, if you need people will not have patience to go undergo training and so on, right? So from that perspective, you would need a team which is a mix of these three, right? Now, in order to do that, it's not going to be. I mean, unless you have a very good management backing to have investment to start right away. I think like what you mentioned for the private equity customer, I think that's a right way to approach. Have you have multiple solutions now with the cloud coming in on Amazon as well as Azure, which are easy to plug into your existing Excel setup. Just do a quick MVP, see if it works, and once business buy-in comes in, you can scale it. You will get investments, you will get commitment to set up a right team, to set up a right kind of a structure. And then the last part, right? I think usually people don't miss on the team or the tech part. They usually get this right. It's the third part, right? Which usually people underestimate or ignore, right? Like we said, one of the shortfall is that people don't adapt, and hence it fails. And adoption means it's easy to use and there's a good user experience, but also there is a good change management. And for smaller organizations, this change management can be smaller, but for bigger organizations, this becomes a lot more critical, right? So the change management is also, I mean, has to be baked into your entire effort for the right kind of team sizing for this initiative.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think one thing here I'll add is also recently we have seen, right, a lot of gamification concepts has been added into this UI UX, right? I think the simulation example I was giving with private equity, I think there was a
right.
example of that was we had to gamify the user experience, right? Because there was a deal teams, right, who were trying to understand what are the right exit times, and it was important to show the decision of one deal team to another deal team so that they can actually outperform each other with respect to expectations of the returns from the portfolio, right? So there's a little element of gamification that's becoming very important for us. And I think, of course, that is a very detailed topic to talk about in some later station, but that's one thing that is adding to the complexity of how to drive this right.
Right. On the same points was, I mean, there is another anecdote that we have, that we were doing this for a Fortune 50 company, right? It's a multi-billion-dollar company. We were building a global measurement solution for their multi-country business. And what we saw is the fact that there were a lot of country CEOs and country leadership that work with a global leadership team, and there was a resistance in terms of adoption, because every country had their own customized solution, customized measurement, customized metrics. And at a standard level, it became difficult, right, to have a consistent comparison between country A and B. The apple-to-apple comparisons wasn't possible. So what we did, to there are multiple ways you can gamify, multiple ways you can engage, but at a senior leadership team, right? How do you gamify? So what design that we thought of is that all these countries always had some pain points, some requests that they would come up with the central team, right, or with the group team, as we call it. And in order, and they either ignored or they were not prioritized. So what we did is, everybody, to get them, we built just an interactive module within the measurement solution, where people can log their asks, right? That, okay, this is what help we need in our sales, this is what help we need in pricing from the headquarters, this is the kind of support we need in some training and so on, right? So all those asks are being logged management solution, measurement solution, and that just was the trigger, right? I mean, that they realized that in order to get in front of the management, in front of the headquarters management, they had to be on the system, and then, because that was the easy way to get their address, and it was a very small element just built on an add-on that we built on Power BI or built on SharePoint, and the entire solution was a big hit, because now they realize that if they go there, their asks can be easily versus trying to go on email and people around. Such small tweaks makes a big difference in the change management that you were talking about.
Absolutely. I think at the end, it's a psychology is another discipline
Correct.
that has to become and played here, right? And the people who know able to bring this together is where we can try this solution. By the way, Shiri, just to interrupt one small, I think you're breaking up a little bit in your voice. I don't know if it's just me or Vishal, but there's a little bit of disturbance in between. But I think if
okay.
Yeah. On this, just to also remind the people that, look, we will keep last 10 minutes for the question. So if you guys have questions in your organization, you guys have questions on any of the things that we covered, please post it. We will take it up as we go towards the end of the last 10 minutes. Yeah, we would love to hear your questions, some of those situations that you might be going through, or anything that we can address, or if there is any similar anecdotes that you have from your companies and that you have done better, that's something that we could learn. We would love to do that. So please do let us know and post it on your questions. Okay, Sherry, go back to you. No, I think this is great. I think I think we just talked about to summarize this, that there is a while we also build data, take a data and create this UI UX is going to be important. Gamification is going to be important, and building those psychological triggers, understanding what drives people is also going to be very important, and baking all that together into your solutions is going to be very, very important going forward to succeed and drive.
Right. Yeah. Maybe then once you have started off, right, so and team. So maybe just quickly touch upon that, how ideally things should. So you would have the governance model, right? How should it evolve, right? When you are initial stage, you will spend a lot of time on your data collection and some bit of measurement. Usage would have, like you said, it should not be zero even if you are starting stage. It should have usage. If there are no usage, you will not get feedback, and this entire effort will go to waste. So you should have usage, as you progress, even when you start at the early stages. And then the split of effort. This is a split of effort in terms, right? That if you have a 10-member team, 5 people are working here, 3 people are working on measurement, metrics, and so on, and 2 people are working on adoption and driving usage, right? As you mature, your data collection effort might go down, or ideally it should go down, right? And when you are in a fully matured stage, you should have a fully end-to-end automated ETL technology or ETL platforms which will do all the data collection for you. I think 10% is also on the higher side. You should have any effort on this should be lesser than that, right? So that you realize that your most of your effort has to be on adoption, usage, collecting feedback, and if anything, you might have to think of new metrics, newer way of measurement to identify some more root causes and deep dives, right? So that's how your maturity of your data setup or your analytics infra or analytics team should be measured.
I think
Okay.
here the maturity curve, there might be multiple maturity curves here, right? Because sometimes you might get mature with your current business, and suddenly your business might evolve, which might need an additional set of data, additional alternative data sources, right? You might need to, you suddenly your business, your domain is disrupted, right? And then you need to go through another maturity curve. So your maturity curve will also not be constant, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it's not going to be a straight line like step 1 to step 2 to step 3. Like you were saying, it will be iterative. It will go up and down. There will be fluctuations, and I think that's the right way to evolve. But at the end of it, the mean value should be going up, right? While there is a curve which goes up and down, the mean value should have an upward tick. I think, these are like numbers that idealistic world would want, right? And things can vary depending on which stage you are in. If you are at a stage where your business is going through a disruption, obviously, again, this 10% can go up to 30% in no time. But yes, I think that's what we should aim for at least.
Yeah. So I think I think completely agree, Shreya. The only thing is, I feel given this COVID and there's so much disruption happening, right? People's actually the maturity is more like an S curve, right? With a lot of curves happening along the way, right? And
Right.
and then I think to give an example of one of our client recently, that 2 years back we were in the collection or the start phase of maturity, right? And then in 2 years we ended up into little more mature state. But suddenly now COVID happened, and there is the entire business problems, the kind of reports that they want, kind of decision they want to take has changed, right? Now suddenly social media data has become very important. Suddenly there is the promotion and the telemetry data of the traffic has become important, which was not when ever captured before, and was only focused on sales and performance of the stores and the retail client.
Right.
Now suddenly this became a very different business model. Their business model itself has evolved. So now you are going to again go back to the start of the maturity curve, right? Because you have to now do a lot of the newer data collections. You have to do now maybe build additional business models that they are evolving. You have to start capturing data for that, right? So you, as a business model change, I think this maturity's curve will also be more of a S-shaped or multiple S-shaped, right? And along the way,
Correct.
you'll have to start adapting to it.
Yeah. Correct. Absolutely. I think you're bang on there. It will evolve. It will be multiple S's in that curve. On that line, maybe I can quickly jump to a slide, right, where we have a similar kind of a S curve, as you might say, right? This is for one of our a big retailer in UK, right? It's a pretty. They have like 1,000+ outlets across United Kingdom. They're pretty large, good chain, but and suddenly, or they were number 2 till a couple of years back, but being number 2, they somehow managed to acquire number 1 retailer in that domain, and then they became double the size. And that was a disruption, right? That meant they had to integrate with a newer entity. That meant there were newer systems in the different organization that they acquired. It meant there were different kind of setups, right from tool setup to data to even the infra setup were different, and they had to struggle and get a bigger team involved to again reset the entire thing, right? Now, on this roadmap, if you see, for an organization on the books, it is 12, 15 year plus old organization, but on the maturity front, it again it was on the higher side, but then it came down again, given a lot of things were not used or couldn't be used in the newer environment, and then they were in a more reactive mode, right? So they again had to set up their entire reporting infrastructure, how to set up those alerts, right? Because this is a 24/7 chain. They have shifts, and when each day ends, they have to close out the day's whatever billing cycle and things like that. End of the day, so they had to put in some infra, some technology, and a big set of team to revive the entire thing and make it in a combined solution. So this took like you said, right? The S curve, it came down suddenly. It took them 3 months and to revive themselves and come back 3 to 4 months. And then now again, they are back where they have the first two boxes checked. And now they are working on the step 3 and step 4 of optimization and predictive part, right?
Yeah,
So,
perfect.
yeah. And just to highlight, right, for the rest of the team here as well, I think when we think of descriptive work, we are usually think of a report or a dashboard. But I mean, given the technology availability that we have, I think having not just report, action based, right? If certain benchmarks are breached, you should get an alert, an SMS, maybe an email, right, to the right set of people to take next action, right? A workflow based. I mean, we see a lot of workflow, just like when you apply for leaves, it goes to your manager, it goes to the HR, it goes to all the relevant people that so and so person is going on leave or a long leave, right? So similar thing have been orchestrated in case of business intelligence also. You get alerts, things have are whatever this has breached so and so SLA or breached so and so benchmark. This action requires, right? SMS goes out to 3 people. They take their respective actions. They respond, they reply, right, on an email or on a message saying action taken, and that record gets so that management, when they look at it, when they know, okay, this was breached, these were the 5 actions to be taken, 3 are done, 2 is pending, right? These are the next level, while it is not really a proactive, but it gives you the measurement is not like 3 weeks later, okay, still there are 2 actions pending, right? It's on the fly, real time. You realize that things are done, things are pending, and where should your focus be, right? So that these are the kind of descriptive and inquisitive solutioning that are currently available that you can build on if you have the right foundation again.
It's perfect.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe the next thing I just want to quickly cover was
Sheri, we got 12 minutes on the card.
Okay.
I think we can strictly maybe cover a few slides in the important points in the next 5
points.
minutes.
Yeah,
5 minutes, and then we can keep 5 minutes for a couple of questions.
Yeah, I will. Just 2 points that we would want to touch upon is how do you, like we spoke about data from the left side of the spectrum on the first slide that we saw, right? The data is where things are, but also how do you see? Now, you cannot go step basis from data step 2, step 3. You will have to come from the other side of the spectrum as well, and then try to connect the both lines at the center. I think that's the right and the most efficient way of doing. Otherwise, you will have a lot of rework and redundancies come in if you go from one left side to right, right? So the coming from the decision side. Now, this is the kind of a mind map you build. So who are my decision makers, right? What is their key decisions that they make in life, in the business, right? what are the possible questions they answer, right? What are the factors that they consider for making a decision? So these are the kind of factors you keep on breaking them into the next logical question, next logical step, till you get the raw basic data size, right? Sorry, basic data element. Until you reach that, you keep on breaking them, and then you realize, okay, if you try to address these questions, business would be able to take the right decision based on the solution that you build. Okay, so with that context, once you have the end node on the right hand side, then you can try and match them or map them to the data points that you have captured, right? So, so this entire mind map should start from the business end, and there has to be an initiative that starts from the data end, and somewhere in the center they should come and make sense at the center of it and align there. So that was one key point, I think worthwhile for people to note as they embark on this journey. Okay. So that was one, and second thing was on the UX part that we covered, right? On the UX front, there are multiple aspects. There are, as you know, people who specialize only in UI UX interactions and change management, right? But still, if you can afford to invest in a dedicated team who specializes in this, nothing like it. If not, but there are few high level guidelines that can help you take care of UI and UX to best of your abilities, right? So these are like few key guidelines we keep in mind. So we at Sankey, we have a dedicated UI UX team, but still for people and customers who may not have, we give this as a helping guideline for them. And helping guideline to them, and then try and leverage that for building a intuitive UI, right? You have to maximize the amount of space that you have to visualization, to text versus to having some kind of what are the key messages you want to highlight? What are the key decisions you want to let users to take, right? What is the recall value? I mean, these are a few key things which, like I can give you an example here, right? So these are the recall values of the key parameters. You would want them to remember this. These are the key differentiators in their business or key metrics in their business. So while this is a trend, this gives me some insight. What is my total planned hours or planned availability this week? So it's only 30%, which means I need to work hard on my pipeline because there is a lot of free spare time available in my team, things like that, right? So what are the key things you will have to call out? Yeah, so these were the two things I thought we'll quickly touch upon before jumping on to the specific questions that might be there. So yeah, I mean, just another example of kind of a design that is required. Now, this may not work, right? Design also has to be contextual. For some, it might be overwhelming. For some, it might be depending on the business and depending on the aptitude or the requirement for the business. It can vary. So it has to be contextualized. It can't be lifted and shifted from any domain to any. Okay. Suhas, you want to quickly, we have 5 minutes to go. You want to quickly touch upon questions before we come to the last part? Hello? Hello, Suhas?
Yeah, sorry. I think there's some issue on my side. I got dropped off. Hey, can you hear me?
Sure. Yeah, I can hear you. So I said those are the two things I wanted to cover. We have 5 minutes to go. Do you want to take some questions if we have, or then if not, we can go on to the last part of the tools, possible tools.
Yeah. So one thing, I think one of the question here was from Lee is that how do you, for e-commerce company, right? There is a um, uh, what kind of metrics? So a startup analyst, at someone who is trying to create a dashboard for the leadership, what kind of metrics might make sense for leadership team in e-commerce company? Again, it's very difficult to answer at a very high level, but I think just to give some pointers here, anything from your thoughts, what are the metrics, or what kind of different metrics that might be relevant in the e-commerce domain?
Okay. I think e-commerce, sorry, from our understanding and what kind of e-commerce business that we have engaged with, the primary metric is your active user base, right? Footfall that come in, visits that happen on your website is the primary thing, right? If you are able to attract people, even if they don't buy anything right now, you can always convert them in future. So that's the key thing that drives the valuation for an e-commerce company. Once you have the footfall, what is the conversion rate? Whether they buy, how often? Every 3 visits they buy once, or every 10 visits they buy once? What is that, right? When they convert, what is the kind of their cart value, right? Or average buying value, right? Is it $10? Is it $50? Is it $100? On average, people buy $30 worth of goods from your e-commerce, right? Every third time or every 5th time they come onto your website, right? So you see there is a gradual funnel around it on how things go. The top of the funnel is how many people. Then when they come, how often do they buy? And when they buy, how much do they spend? Right. So that's how your you may also call it a KPI list or a KPI tree, right? That you build a tree of all the metrics, relevant metrics, and then try to sequence them on what will be the priority of business, right? How would you want to sequence it? How do you want to funnel it down or deep dive on, right? So yeah, those are the top 3 metrics coming to my mind. But again, depending on what kind of e-commerce, is it B2B, B2C? What is the life cycle? Is it consumer goods or is it lifestyle? So it can, again, you can have specific metric relevant to those categories.
Yeah, I think I think at a very high level, Sherry, if you have to answer this, at a very high level, there has to be a performance of the business, right? The e-commerce business. So what's your typical order size? What's your active customers, right? What's your daily traffic? So different dimensions of the performance at a different category level, at a different SKU level, right? So that will be a basic reporting of the, which Sherry mentioned about descriptive, right? Just knowing what's happening in my business. What's my daily sales like? What's my weekly sales? Right? Which category is going down? Which category is going up? So knowing what's happening from the sales perspective, right, is one area of one dimension of metrics and reporting that you should and data analytics that you should do. The second, I think, is how do you optimize the traffic that you're getting? How do you make sure that you are able to get the higher dollar value from your customers? So how do you increase the share of wallet or size of wallet? For that, I think what Sherry was saying is doing the funnel analysis. Where are you dropping? What is your lost revenue? Where are you people? What are the cross-sell opportunities? What are upsell opportunities? What are the recommendation engine working or not? So those, I think, high-level business performance. Second level can be optimization and an enhancement of the business performance. And what are those different metrics that are right to that? I think very high level, those are very common ones that I use. But depending on what I would suggest is depending on what your problem is. I think if you are a startup, a data analyst who's a startup e-commerce, try to understand what are the different problems that, because I'm assuming as e-commerce, a lot of these are very standard basic reporting that your organization must be already doing it, right? So try to understand what are your pain points of your organization. Where is your e-commerce bounce rate is very high. So then try to create a very specific report for the bounce rate to show what are the different channels from which you're getting the traffic, which channels are not performing, things like that. So list down those pain points and then try to create a very specialized solution that can help them either understand why it is happening or help you investigate why it's happening, and then also can you drive towards suggesting what they should change. So I think at very high level that I'll leave it to that. The another question, Sherry, is in the matter of is also that there is someone from Sanjay who's working with a company, insurance tech, I think, insurance domain, where a lot of their local country people are developing apps and acquiring data from the local countries. Now, the question from Sanjay is, what is the way to acquire all this data at a centralized place more efficiently? What will be the approach to get all this efficiently in one place, in a data warehouse, data lake? It's very difficult because a lot of these data are captured differently in a different countries. So how do you efficiently get it out of one place? That's the question.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's not easy. I think the similar kind of problem we faced when I just spoke about the retail example, right? When two companies got acquired, right? Different data, the HR data, finance data were all in a different format, different thing, and they had to be included. But it was still in a standard state, right? 2 or 3 standard states they were in. But what I understand from this question is they are in multiple such formats, and these formats can evolve, correct? And how do you get them into a standardized form, right? So if that is the intent, I think you will have to. I mean, this is going to be very tech-specific solution that we'll have to build, right? Getting a set of APIs per se, right, which can absorb data, try to parse it into the standard format that you end result that you would want, right, and have the identified values captured in the standard format that you already would have defined, and there would be some parts which might not which might be redundant or which might not be part of your plan, and they can be captured as in a separate either a table or a separate format where you have which is up for feedback or loop, right? That kind of solution which will iteratively learn that every time something is not mapped, how do you get it into a common place and then get and learn what will be the right fitment for that data. I don't know if I'm able to answer. So, if you have any additional points on that.
I think that you kind of nailed it right. But I think one element which I think one element that, especially if you have very disparate data coming from different sources, right? Then the struggle is how do you transform that into a centralized data model or architecture? And it's very tough, especially if you have very, very disparate countries doing this own way. One of the best practices that I know is, so often the load of, the onus of building architecture is to how do you create a common architecture which will fit all, and you may not have that for a long time in your business. So the other approach that is you might have heard from is typically the data solution architecture is always ETL, right? Extract, transform, and load. I think in some cases the different approach other than ETL is extract, load, and transform, which means you actually create different data stores at a centralized place, which will have a different data models coming from different countries. You don't transform them; you just load it at one place. So what happens because of that? At least you have one big data lake where you're capturing all the data, and then you spend a lot of time as you evolve in terms of trying to come with a centralized architecture as a transformation architecture later on. But don't limit that. Should not, because you don't have a common transformational model to fit all, should not stop you from creating data stores or data lakes in the initial. And that's the beauty of some of those Azure data factories or some of the solutions where you could create a lot of these data stores, and this gives you a tool to actually map, right, which are the common ones, which are not common ones, and you can create a hybrid model later on. But I think first step I would recommend is that create a data store where you get a multiple data store for the different countries, get them to one place, let them do the centralized reporting from the same data. At least on the platform, they all know that my data is going at this, right? It's an operational data store or whatever you call it. Then it becomes a natural adoption in the organization that I have one place where my data goes. In future, if I want to pull this, you can pull this. And when you do that, a lot of synergies come across, right? Because you will say, oh, one country is doing this better, the other country is not pulling this data, they should also do that. So when you're bringing all that in the side by side, gives you a lot of the business guys to learn from them, and then slowly create a centralized data warehouse out of the data stores, which will then start having a more like a one version of truth for the entire organization. But don't try to attempt that on the day one. Let them have that own space. Give them that flexible data models initially. Don't transform a lot of things upfront, and then slowly start building a common architecture is what I would recommend.
Right. Makes sense. Makes sense.
So with that, last, I think, Sherry, I think one last, we 5 minutes over time, but I think just to close, one important element of a webinar is the, uh, in last 4 years is one of the things that I always admire, and we should leverage that is the evolution of how some of these data engineering and data analysis and data. I'm not even going into data analytics, right, or into pure machine learning. I'm just talking basic data engineering and data reporting. There's so much huge evolution of different tools, technologies, different type of architecture, different type of designs, different type of low, lightweight, heavyweight, enterprise one, very, very small one, free, open source. It's a plethora of technologies that has evolved in the last 5 years, right? And I
Right.
think, as you can see on the screen, it's very important to leverage this, and a lot of people don't, right? Anytime you ask someone, they only know SQL Server as a data warehouse. It's not the case anymore, right? There's going to be so much of hosted solutions, so much of, there are 100 plus different free databases. There's so many free ETL tools, ELT tools, so many analysis visualization tools, so many basically JavaScript based reporting services. So the evolution is quite high, and I think as a data, someone who is working in this domain should be very, very open to learning different architecture, engineering tools, different ways to connect tables, different connectors that are happening between the systems. There are very, very standard frameworks around data frameworks that are coming up with respect to visualizing and things like that. And I think just to explore this whole gamut of technology that are evolving, and this space is just started. I think the whole thing is going to explode in next 5 years, and it's important. And a lot of these tools will also become smarter. They will have inbuilt bot engines. They will have inbuilt NLP libraries within it, so that you can actually deploy those NLP and start analyzing this using a verbal queries and things like that. So keep a tab on a lot of this technology. We'll cover this in a later sessions in detail. But some of them I would love you guys to look at is like Google Data Studio, for example. We do a lot of things in say SimulSoft, which is one of the reporting web service. SimulSoft reports. Have a look at some of these that you're not. Data Zen is one of the. Penta was extremely one. Open source. You can actually change your reporting. Create your own widgets, things like that. So if you know a little bit of technology, a little bit of understanding of data, I think you can. If you have a team like that, you can play around with these tools very quite nicely and build very, very rapidly some of those things for your businesses.
Absolutely.
Okay, with that, I think we're on top of the hour, and we have covered, I think, very high level. Guys, thank you so much for attending today's webinar. I hope it added some perspective to what you were looking for. It gave you a little more perspective to think about as you go back to your organization. And if there is any question, anything that you have, please reach out to us. Sherry and me are we are always excited to solve these problems and connect with people who are who are having who want to solve good problems in this area. So reach out to us. I'll just message my and Sherry email ID here as well, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next few sessions.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for their time. Yeah.
And thank you, Sherry, for wonderful presentation. And I think let's connect again for the next sessions. Thank you again.
Sure.